Hey, folks. Looks like we're live on YouTube, live on X, live on Facebook. It's me, Chase Oliver, candidate for president, coming to you from my home near Atlanta, Georgia. And we're going to be talking about our campaign vision for the post nomination for how we think we're going to be able to engage the next generation and win the next generation for liberty. And I thank you very much for those of you who are joining the live stream. I already see likes coming in. That's great. Uh, First and foremost, we are on our way to our national convention next week in Washington, D.C. If you are a delegate, I want to hear from you. I want to get your direct feedback. So you can book a call with me. Excuse me. I got a cough that I'm trying to stifle from happening. But there we go. So vote chaseoliver.com/book. So if you're a delegate or an alternate to our national convention, I want to hear from you directly through feedback. So if you can go to that website right there, that address, votechaseoliver.com/book. You can book a phone time with me. We'll have a nice 15-minute phone call so we can hear what your priorities are for the Libertarian campaign going forward, as well as, I want to know if I'm your first choice on the floor or what I can do to earn that first choice there on the ballot as we head to our convention. One more thing, of course, as we do head to convention, we're going to have some awesome stuff coming up. We are going to have a breakout room with exclusive campaign merch. So if you are coming to convention and you are a Chase Oliver for President supporter, well, come to our breakout room, enjoy some cookies and coffee and water, as well as get some exclusive campaign merch that will be for the convention goers. We look forward to seeing you all out there. And if you want to support our efforts as a campaign, go to votechaseoliver.com/donate. We do have campaign donor supporters in all 50 states, plus DC and Puerto Rico. But of course, we could always use your help to spread the message of liberty and really hit the ground running on day one post nomination. And that's exactly why we're here today. So go to votechaseoliver.com/donate if you're able to help us out and get us ready to go full steam ahead. I'm here today to talk about our campaign plans to win the next generation of liberty. I see comments are already starting to come in. I'm going to have a friend of mine, also an amazing hard worker, somebody who has helped my campaign both in the Senate race as well as in my campaign for president to engage with the media. She's also a former LP secretary out here in Georgia. She's amazing, and I give a warm welcome to Amber Howell. How you doing, Amber?
I'm good.
Awesome. Well, as I kind of go on in this next little bit, it'll be kind of a presentation style thing for the first little while. Just keep an eye on the comments there. If you see any questions talking about, kind of specific to the points we're discussing, make sure you keep me abreast there if anything comes through. But in the meantime, and then we will do some Q&A towards the end of this, you guys. So if you have general questions about the campaign, about the Libertarian Party, our positions in the campaign, any of that stuff, go ahead and just keep those questions there for the later half of this live stream. But if you do have any questions about what we're going to do to win the next generation for liberty, what we're talking about, please feel free to shoot the comments in there. And of course, I love to say hello to all of you. I see the Scientific Libertarian. I see Mark, man, from the LNC. How you doing? I hope you're doing great. Michelle McCutcheon, she's our volunteer director. She's there. And Mohican Libertarian, how you doing, sir? I was glad to have a great conversation with you the other day on the phone. And you can have one more free plug time before we really get into this. If you want to have a great conversation on the phone with me, you as a delegate can go to votechaseoliver.com/book and book a phone call with me. Love to hear from you directly. So with that being said, let's talk about what our campaign strategy is here. When I say win the next generation for liberty, I don't mean just grabbing Gen Z. I mean that the next generation, this next 25 years is critical for us to be pushing the message of liberty forward and growing our party up foundationally. And why do I want to win the next generation? And it does involve Millennials and Gen Z being the largest voting target of our campaign. And there's a few reasons that I want to talk about why that is. So, I'm just going to generally just ask you the question, Amber. When did you, what age were you when you first identified as a libertarian? Like when you first said, I'm a libertarian?
Oh, let's see. Probably about 8 years ago. So that would have made me 26.
26. You see, that is actually right in the prime age range when we surveyed our supporters, right? When we surveyed our supporters, we asked you, when did you first start identifying as a libertarian? We had like under 18 to 29, 30 to 45, and then 45 plus was like the general groupings. And the largest group was 18 to 29-year-olds and under 18-year-olds. These are people who, I heard about libertarianism just about, 14 years ago now. So I was 24. I had gotten sick and tired of the two-party system, and I had wandered upon a Libertarian Party, and there they were, ready to scoop me up and welcome me into the tent. And I think that is the strategy we need to have as a campaign, is to really reach out to that target demographic. In marketing, they are the most, you want that 18 to 35-year-old demographic in general marketing, because they're the most likely to spend money and be moved by marketing and advertising. Because, once you get past that point, set in your ways. Politics is no different. And so we need to start reaching out to young people, getting them invested right now in the concepts of libertarianism, in the concepts of the free market, and the concepts of like free speech, constitutional protections of your liberty, fighting back against the state abuses, reducing the size of the state, the scope of the state, reducing the warfare state overseas, like all these concepts that we need to be reaching out to Gen Z for. Now, there's a few other facts that I want to talk about. And so let me see here. I think I got a slide here I can show. Let me pop that up real quick. Sorry. I'm trying to, Jesus. There we go. Sorry. I am doing this on the fly because my screen is pretty crazy, but I'm going to show you the results really quickly. I'm just going to share my screen to show you guys the results, like what I'm talking about, if it'll pop up. Damn it. StreamYard's being stupid. Give me one more second. What are you doing, StreamYard? There we go. Let's see if this works now. Present my screen. Yes, we're going to share my screen. And there it is. Boom. So if you can see right there, we did both Facebook and Twitter. Twitter is the one with the four responses there. Facebook's the second one. And we got thousands of responses. So this was just not pulled out of nowhere. This was a lot of libertarian supporters, people who are diehards in the party from all age ranges, right? Even Steve Dosbacher, my campaign manager, he is not 18 to 29, but he certainly became a libertarian at that age range. And so it's important for us to recognize that this is the target demographic we want to hit. Other reasons why Gen Z is important. They vote in larger numbers. Right now, they're voting in twice the amount that Millennials did and Gen Xers did at the same age range. So they're keyed in. They're ready to go. They want to know what's going on. Over 2,300 surveyed. I see that. That is that's how many people answered there. And with that higher voter frequency, there's also the matter of like just the sheer number. 40% of voters in this election are going to be Millennials or Gen Zers. And so we need to have something that focuses on them. And that's what this campaign is focused on doing. That is why we want to win the next generation for liberty. That's why we want to see young people come into this party, because that's how I got into this party, right? At 24. Now, I could have gotten into this party much earlier if I felt like there had been a campaign that was really reaching out to young people. But, my formative years, my first two elections, 2004, 2008, I don't really feel like we had a candidate that was really focused in the Libertarian Party on reaching out to young people. We got more of that, as we went along. But of course, I found out about the Libertarian Party because of our gubernatorial candidate in Georgia, John Mons. But I just really didn't get that from Bob Barr or the 2004 nominee. Now, I don't want people to have to go through the same, I got stuck in the two-party system for like 10 years almost, right? Because I hated the wars. George Bush was a neocon. And so I became a Democrat for like 9 years. And it took a lot for me to get pulled out of that. Like I had to wait for a lot of promises to be broken before I realized there should be options outside the two-party system. Hey, I see a comment here that I want to jump in real quick as I'm stream of consciousness here. I like your shirt. If you like this shirt, you can go to votechaseoliver.com. There's an entire merch store. You can get this shirt. You can also, look for shirts that we're going to have at convention for supporters. So make sure, if you're one of our volunteers, you can always sign up to be a volunteer. We'll make sure you get a shirt. But yeah, you can get a Chase Oliver 2024 shirt, a Chase for Liberty shirt. You get all kinds of stuff like that at votechaseoliver.com. We have an amazing merch store that is currently hosted by a local libertarian small business, the Proud Libertarian. They're happy to host our store for us. So yeah, get your merch there. One of the things I wanted to mention. Sorry, you seeing anything interesting coming through in the comments there, Amber? I just saw that one pop through and I knew I had to mention it.
Yeah, we just got that one.
Oh yeah. Well, let's see.
You want to throw it up?
Yeah, throw some comments up there. Okay, why can't libertarians get invited to the presidential debates? Good question. Danny, I'm not sure if you're the guy on the left or the right in that picture. But if you're the younger man in that picture, you might not realize since 1996, the presidential debates had been controlled by this group called the Commission on Presidential Debates, which sounds like this really official thing. But in reality, it's a group that was controlled by the Republicans and Democrats in order to make sure that no one else got on the debate stage. And so that's really how it had been for the longest time. They created very arbitrary high polling thresholds and made it very difficult for anybody who wasn't a Democrat or Republican to get on that presidential debate stage, which is why we haven't had one since 1996 with Ross Perot. I know he was on the debate stage in 92. I don't remember if he was on there in 96 or not. But regardless, since Ross Perot. But what's great is Joe Biden and Donald Trump have now signified that they are going to be doing away with the Commission on Presidential Debates. They both walked away from it. First, the Republicans walked away, and now the Democrats have, because they said their debates were going to be too late in the season. And we have our first presidential debate on CNN scheduled in just over a month here in Atlanta. And I'm very excited to hopefully win our nomination and earn enough news and make enough of a splash to where we can hardline CNN into letting us on the debate stage. I sincerely believe that any candidate who's on enough ballots to win the Electoral College should be on the debate stage. Currently, that would be, I believe, 3: the Libertarians, the Democrat, and the Republicans. Robert F. Kennedy will probably get on some more ballots and qualify for that amount. The Greens might be likely to do that, but I think a 5-person debate stage is better than a 2-person debate stage. I mean, I don't know about you, Amber. What do you think?
Yep, I like options.
Options are good. Well, I'm going to jump back into here talking a little bit more about what we're going to be doing post-nomination to really have a successful day one launch and what we've already done. So first off, if you go to our website, you can see it right there, votechaseoliver.com, right under my name. You'll see an amazing put together website, one that has all of our media, press releases, event pages. We've had specific pages for convention. If you go to votechaseoliver.com/convention, you can get all the info about what we're doing in DC next week. And so we have a really well put together, professionalized marketing and comms team. Amber is a part of that as our media coordinator. It's headed up by the amazing Kelsey Lyon, who does just amazing work. And she is definitely a lady for liberty. Both of you are. We have a lot of amazing ladies for liberty on our team. And shout out to all of them, by the way. But what are we going to do post nomination? We have things like use of tech. We're going to be using the best technology to be able to actually target voters, right? Because I don't know about you, Amber. I don't think we're going to raise $1 billion like the Republicans and Democrats. Just something tells me we're not going to be in the pocket of special interests and all these elite institutions that want to control us. Something tells me we're going to raise quite a bit less than $1 billion. It's probably what the Democrats and Republicans will raise together. But we do have an aggressive fundraising total of we want to raise between $5 to $9 million, which I think is totally doable. That's more than Joe Jorgensen raised 4 years ago. I do believe that is an attainable goal. And with that, we need to be able to reach our voters, and we're not going to be able to blanket the airwaves with annoying YouTube ads the way the Democrats and Republicans are, just hitting everyone's inbox and just covering every single commercial, right? Because we ain't going to have the money for that. So what we're going to have to do is utilize technology to really get the best bang for our buck, what I call punching above our weight. When I ran for U.S. Senate, my opponent spent $250 million. I think the campaign spent something like $20,000, Amber, something like that. I think around 20,000. And with that, we earned 81,000 votes. So while my opponent spent between $20 and $25 per vote, We spent 26 cents per vote. So we definitely punched above our weight in terms of the impact. Well, we're going to do the same thing here with, things like, things like geofencing and targeting people with direct advertising through their streaming services. It's one of the easiest ways to reach out to people. It's actually the medium that more and more people are using than traditional television. And we kind of already did a test run of this after the Libertarian Party of Virginia convention. We geofenced them, got all the data around there, and then we started seeing people messaging us going, hey, I was watching Hulu and a Chase Oliver for President commercial came up. How the heck did that happen? Well, it happened because we utilize basically the best way to market ourselves and to target directly voters. And it's not just libertarian conventions we're going to be doing, right? But we want to basically be making sure we're gathering the data and getting out there and directly marketing to all of these populations we want to be hitting. Things like gun shows, which are going to be traditional, like libertarian strongholds, where people who value the Second Amendment are going to be. Things like anti-war protests. That's where we're going to get a lot of this these Gen Z voices, and be able to directly market to them and peel them away from the two-party system that we know is beholden to the war machine. So, we want to be able to tell these voters who want peace, who want to see ceasefires, who want to see an end to the violence around the world, that we'll be able to do that. I see a couple of other things coming in. Pride events. Yes, Jenny, we're going to hit Pride events too. I believe that too. June is Pride Month. There's going to be a lot of young Gen Z voters who believe in the right to free self-expression, bodily autonomy, other things that are very much within the libertarian wheelhouse. Heck, I became a libertarian because John Mons was marketing himself as a gubernatorial candidate at Pride. We want to make sure that people do that. Oh, there's Chrissy Wickers. I love her. She gives us the best phrase, by the way. Did you guys know that writing a press release is free? I just have this one question here from her. I want to answer this. If you're the nominee, would I be willing to crash the debate? I have practiced the art of being an activist and the art of being somebody who uses passive nonviolent resistance to get a message across. I'll be happy to do that at the debate venue since it is here in Atlanta. They made it really close for me. It's actually driving distance, so I don't really have to go that far. And heck, I know the people who are there, so good times. Back to what we're talking about here, though, but that's about making every dollar count. When we talk about using this kind of marketing strategy, this is something that, if utilized correctly, can make sure that dollar for dollar, we're able to reach our voters better than the Democrats and Republicans are able to reach theirs, and bring out, hopefully, independents and young people. This is the largest voter base that we want to reach out to. So yeah. Next up, we're going to be having a vibrant social media strategy, you guys. Like, first, we're already on most major social media platforms. We're going to be expanding that to a few more. Right now, if you are on TikTok, by the way, please go to TikTok and follow this campaign. We're trying to get to over 1,000 supporters, 1,000 followers. We're able to start live streaming just like this on TikTok as well, which is the largest Gen Z voter platform, you guys. If we want to reach out to the next generation, remove them from the statist indoctrination they've been getting on social media, we have to be on those platforms as well. And so I don't know if you have a TikTok. If you don't, get one, make one, and follow the campaign. If you already have one, just jump on and follow the campaign. It takes 2 seconds. We've already got some great videos up there that you can share, repost, help spread organically through the algorithm. That would be awesome. But if you've ever seen our advertising, our media strategy, we have an amazing professionalized marketing campaign that we are going to be gearing towards the focused issues of young people. We need to be able to talk libertarian solutions to the issues that young people care about the most. And so we're going to be rolling out a policy rollout post-nomination that is geared towards getting the ear of Gen Z, right? Once we get their ear, we can then fill their heads with all kinds of libertarian stuff. That's how I got in the party. I was an anti-war voter. They brought me in, and then they started filling my head with libertarian stuff. And then lo and behold, I became a radical minarchist. What was the thing that brought you into the party, Amber? Like, was there an issue that brought you into the party, or just generally just disgusted with the two-party system?
I just hated the Republicans and Democrats. I've never voted until Gary Johnson.
With Gary, was that 2012 or 2016, Gary?
2016.
2016. Okay, because my first Libertarian vote for president was Gary Johnson and Jim Gray in 2012. Good one there. So we want to talk about the diversity of the voter, right? Why do I talk about issues that matter to young people, particularly things like immigration? Why is that such a huge issue for young people? Gen Z, it's one of the top issues of the Gen Z voter. Why is that? Well, because 1 in 4 Gen Z voters, 1 in 4 Gen Z people are Hispanic. It is the largest growing demographic in this country, and it is one that we as a liberty community need to be reaching out to. We need to be talking about the issues that matter to that community, and also doing things like Spanish language marketing, which is something we've already done as a campaign. We already have literature that is in Spanish. We've already marketed to Hispanic heavy communities. We've visited the border. We have met local business owners and other charities that are involved in immigration. And so that's one of the reasons why we're targeting that, because that's the things that matter to Gen Z voters. Another one is going to be climate change. Gen Z voters care about the environment. They care about the climate. Call them crazy, but I don't know. They're going to live a little longer than Joe Biden and Donald Trump. So maybe that's why they're concerned about what the environment looks like 30 or 40 years from now. And we need to be having libertarian solutions, not statist solutions going into their minds, so that we're activating libertarians, right?
We have a question from Kelsey Lyon. I'm going to throw it up here.
Shout out, Kelsey.
Will Gen Z and Millennials have high-ranking positions on your team to help shape communication and issues?
Well, absolutely. Like if you look at our, so first off, we already have plenty of Millennials on the team. Amber, Kelsey, myself, honestly, myself is one of the members of that team. But if you look at our volunteer base, we have over 500 volunteers all over the country, and many of them are in this target age range. Many are actually younger. We had a young man named Patrick out of, he came to the Florida convention, and he drove hours with his dad, by the way. His dad was a Republican. I think we kind of turned him into a libertarian by the end of it because we showed him a really good time at the convention. But he's in high school and he got inspired by this campaign. We had a supporter out in Texas. He's a high school history teacher, and he showed his students with no bias, not telling me he supported anything. He just showed them the LP Texas debate and asked what candidate resonated with you the most. And 11-1 to 0-0, because there were 12 students. We won that poll, and I think it's because young people want to see that generational face. They're so tired of the Joe Bidens and the Donald Trumps and the Robert Kennedys of the world. So our campaign is going to be as young, as hungry for activism as the candidate themselves. So, we can't have a Gen Z because you got to be 35, but we're certainly going to have plenty of Gen Z supporters who are at the top levels of our campaign, helping to advise us, as well as Millennials who, our generation really needs to have a voice in all this because, geez, the world has been crazy since we've become adults. And we're not the people causing it. Certainly not in the politicians, I want to talk a little bit about activism. That's one of the things I think can help drive Gen Zers and Millennials to this campaign, is because not only am I talking the talk, but I walk the walk. I have been an activist. I have been somebody who's in the streets. I have been somebody who's been pepper sprayed and tear gassed by police, stood next to stood in front of the riot shields. I've been somebody who has, been out there, speaking in front of committees and city halls about issues that matter to young people, things like the Stop Cop City movement in Atlanta, politician or not. I'm happy to walk into that room and speak my piece and talk about police brutality, the militarization of police, and join in those single issue coalitions. And so I think having a candidate who has actually done that work, who's actually been there, done that, knows the sting of tear gas, right, to the activist, is an important thing. And this is an activist generation. It absolutely is painful. Tear gas is not cool. I said one time, one of the reasons why we need to reach out to younger people is, when I was 19 and 20 years old and protesting the war, and when you get pepper sprayed, you would you just throw the milk on your face and be like, oh yeah, I'm badass. Yeah. And then when you're in your 30s, in 2020, when it happened to me, right, you're like, oh man, can I find my Uber or my car? Or maybe I should just Uber out of here. I don't know. What should I do? It's not as fun. And we need to actually replenish our party with a whole new influx of young people who are ready to be that activist generation, right? Like, I'll march with you as long as my knees and my back have the ability to do it. But it would really be great if we could have a whole generation of young people with strong backs and strong knees to help lead the next generation into a world set free in our lifetime. That's what we want to inspire the next generation to do, right?
We'll be there in our New Balance.
Yeah, exactly. We'll be there in our New Balance and our jorts and pumping our emo music and all that good stuff. We'll be there as millennials should be, holding the vanguard for this next generation. Let's see. We got any more? So we got any more general comments or questions here about that kind of stuff? Oh, I do see this comment, and it's from one of our team members. And they're logged in as me, but we're going to put it up there. We do have awesome Hispanic members of our team that help translate our literature. One of the things I wanted to do when we had our literature being translated into Spanish, I was like, can we please not throw it into Google Translate? Because that is the most patronizing, laziest way to try to reach out to the Spanish-speaking community, is to not even find a native speaker. And so we have native Spanish speakers in our volunteer pool who helped translate some of our language for us, and it looks great. And it's not pandering. It is actually reaching out in a way that's authentic to a community that speaks Spanish as a first language. We are going to start putting Hispanic literature on the website, Mark. That is coming in the coming weeks.
We will have Hispanic literature at convention, though.
Absolutely, we will. As we have at all in-person events, we're going to have Spanish literature because we do want to reach out to that community who so often they don't even hear from anybody. They're completely discounted or completely just pandered to by the Democrats or Republicans. We want to make sure we're reaching out to them and letting them have a real conversation with us about liberty.
Well, here's a fun question from, not that one. This one.
Do I speak any other languages? I am doing Duolingo right now. I am over 300 days into my Duolingo of relearning German, which is what I learned in high school. Not the most useful language in terms of campaigning for office, not a huge German-speaking community in the United States. But I worked in international trade, and Germany, the port of Hamburg, is like one of the hugest ports for that. And so I was relearning that to help possibly get back in that industry one day, or just really for fun because it's a language I learned. I also want to shout out Duolingo. They do have Klingon as a language. So if you're a Trekkie out there and you have a lot of guttural coming from the throat, right? That's Klingon. You can do that to your heart's content. Yeah, so that's a good one right there. Where was the other one right there? How do I effectively believe? This is a good one from Stephanie. I don't want to challenge you too hard, right? Thank you for not challenging too hard. Now, this is a great question, but how effective do you believe targeting young voters in this election cycle will be over the majority of aging voters? Well, Stephanie, I don't want to say that we're not going to reach out to older voters. We absolutely are. We're going to campaign hard to as many communities as possible. But the easier minds to change are the ones that haven't been set in their ways for 30 or 40 years voting within the two-party system. I mean, it's way harder to pull somebody in my parents' generation out of like the habits of voting that they've had. Like some of them just go into a booth if they're straight ticket voting. They just hit the R or the D button and then they're just out of there, right? It's much harder to break people out of that than it is young people from getting into that cycle to begin with. And with the increased trends in voting, with the fact that this generation's already voting in twice the numbers of millennials or Gen Xers or boomers were at the same target age range, and the fact that just the body itself of likely voters, 40% of them are going to be millennial or Gen Z, that's nearly a majority, right? That's the largest voting demographic as those two generations combined. The Gen X and baby boomer generations, particularly the boomer generation, it's not going to really be a major political force for more than 2 or 3 presidential election cycles, And so we have to look at investing in the future. That doesn't mean we're not going to reach out to older populations. Certainly there are anti-war voices that are Gen Xers, and certainly there are people who are sick and tired of immigration abuses that are Gen Xers up. Certainly there are people who want to end the Fed, right, who are Gen Xers are up. There are people who want to end the warfare state, who want to end the abuses of law enforcement, who want to change the way we look at the way government, the size, scope of government altogether. There are people in all age ranges that support those ideas, but the quickest one that we're going to gain the most followers and really build a foundation of a party is going to be reaching out to my age range millennials and Gen Zers, who are going to be the political foundation for all parties over the next 20 or 30 years. But thank you for the question. And it was not a challenging question. It was a question I'd love to answer. But thank you for the question, Stephanie. Do we have any other kind of general question and answer we can jump into?
I'm looking for ones that are following our Winning the Next Generation for Liberty theme before I start jumping to other ones.
Yeah. Jump into any ones you see that you think are good to throw up there. In the meantime, if you are on X, please contribute your pet pictures to my pet thread. I put a lovely picture of my dog Delilah out there. So if you have a pet out there, a pet for liberty, make sure you share them with us. I love seeing those, especially if you have a weird pet beyond a dog or a cat. If you have like a lizard or a bird or fish or something like that, even weirder. Go as weird as possible. If you're the Tiger King, please,
That was a couple years ago. Mm-hmm. All right, here's a good one. How do you respond to persons that don't vote because they think it doesn't matter or that claim third party or independent is wasting your vote?
Yeah, well, thank you, Laura, for the question. I think, first, your vote obviously matters. Your voice matters. They wouldn't be telling you to vote differently if your vote for a third party or an alternative party didn't matter. It does matter. Your vote is your voice. And so, now people who don't vote, the first thing I say to them is I understand why you don't, man. You haven't felt inspired to see somebody that you feel confident that would make the changes you want to see. And that is directly related to the two-party system. This is what the two-party system is designed to do, is to not give you the inspiration to get out and vote, let you be apathetic. This is why I encourage you, if you're somebody who hasn't voted in a while and hasn't felt inspired to vote, please never vote for the Republicans or Democrats ever again, because they're not going to change. The only way we're going to change is if you vote outside of that spectrum. So please look at the Libertarians. I hope you vote for the Libertarians. But please, if you ever vote again, don't vote for the failed two-party system. I understand it's a failure, but the only way it's going to change is if enough people vote for alternatives and really shake things up. Now, those who say the third party or independent vote is wasting your vote, again, that's a very selfish statement for someone to make. It basically says that your voice doesn't deserve to be heard. You should shut up so that my voice, the voices I support, can be louder. I think it's a ridiculous notion. And, and you're not wasting your vote. You're putting the ideas out there that people want to hear that can hopefully either get adopted by the two-party system, which has happened in some cases. Libertarians were leading the way on same-sex marriage, on ending the drug war, on lots of issues that we've been leading the way on. Educational freedom, which is now finally coming to fruition post-COVID. There's a lot of areas where libertarians have been leading the way for a long time. And finally, they start getting those ideas adopted by the two-party system. That's its own way of winning, right? Is putting the ideas out there and shifting the Overton window. But ultimately, we want to, become a viable alternative, to organize well enough and to build our foundation well enough up to actually win and start changing policy as policymakers, not just people shifting the Overton window. But that requires real organization, professionalism of our party and the way we do things. And it requires running a campaign that supports the down ballot ticket by not being embarrassing first and foremost, but running a campaign that can build a structure, build a foundation that can grow from, that we can all grow from. And that's why I'm so committed to young people in this election, because this is kind of like the golden opportunity. It's like when the age of the voters and the apathy of the voters like converging at this perfect point for us to really shift things generationally. And lastly, I want to say this. We're not spoilers. We are not spoilers. The spoilers are the people who give us plurality voting. That's not me. That's not you. It's not Amber. That's the Democrats and Republicans in our state houses across the country that refuse to give us ranked choice voting or approval voting or any other advanced voting model that is better than plurality. And because of that, things get spoiled. But we're not spoiling anything. We're just participating in the process as it exists. They are spoiling the election.
What was that quote from the Senate race?
Runoffs will continue until liberty improves. And that's what we're going to keep doing here in Georgia. We will keep.
I was talking about you can't spoil something that's already rotten.
There you go. Well, that's the other. That is a quote that I've used many times in my stump speech. As you can't spoil something that's already rotten, and that is the two-party system. So don't let anybody say that your voice and your vote does not matter. It absolutely does. And if you haven't voted in a while, I don't blame you if you haven't felt super inspired, particularly with the Bidens and the Trumps and the Clintons of the world. But we want to inspire you with the message of liberty and reach out to those people who haven't voted. If you're a non-voter, we want to inspire you to get out and vote and to organize something that is going to be a real alternative. But thank you very much for the question. Let's see what else.
Another one from Alex Keller. What's an issue that libertarians don't tackle well enough?
Well, one that I think we have to start talking about more is the libertarian solutions to climate change and to pollution and to the environment in general. So many people believe that we have to have an EPA or giant status structures to determine, to keep our air clean and our water clean. But we don't actually need those things. But we have to be better at communicating that, because it is one of the top issues of the next generation of voters. They want to know, what we're going to be pushing for, because it's a concern that they have. I'm inclined to believe that there's enough forces to encourage, reduction in power, and through a true deregulation of the energy marketplace, including the most subsidized energy forces, which is carbon-based energy of oil, natural gas, and coal, and untying the regulated hands of nuclear power, we would actually see much more cleaner options coming online more quickly due to consumer demand. And with regards to just other technologies, we need to get government out of the way. I said in my debate with Senator Warnock, if we left the government in charge of phone chargers, we'd still be pulling like the big block batteries out of the back of our phones and plugging them into the wall, as opposed to the C-type charger that we have, most phones nowadays. So I think that is a huge issue. And another missing component there is the fact that I want to remove tort caps for pollution. Right now, we have caps on the damages you can find to a company that pollutes air and the water in a community. I say remove those caps, because when a citizen jury can punish people more harshly, that's a very good free market incentive to get people to not poison the air and the water to begin with. So, but thank you for the question, Alex. And I look forward to seeing you at our national convention in just over a week, you guys. In 1 week, we gavel in. 1 week, 7 days. Make sure if you're a delegate or an alternate, you get out to DC. I'd love to see you.
And speaking of, I think Jenny posted not a question, but this comment. She heard a rumor there's going to be a very fun room to hang out in.
Well, the rumors are true, you guys. The rumors are completely true. We do have a breakout room at the convention, complete with exclusive merch, fun activities to do. We're going to be having a great time. I'm going to be there some of the time when I'm not on the floor, though I am going to be on the floor quite a bit, because not only am I a candidate for president, but I'm also a voting delegate. But during some downtimes and breaks and things like this, we will have plenty of, interaction going on at the breakout room. So it is not just a rumor. It is a fact. It is, in fact, going to come see us in our breakout room, have some fun, say hello, meet some awesome people, and join Queen Chase.
We will have snacks. Okay, let's see. Let me scroll back down.
By the way, if you're watching this right now, if you could share this on your whatever platform you're watching on, if you're watching this on X or on Facebook, please share it out. If you're watching on YouTube, just give a like and a subscribe to the channel. The more people we get liking and subscribing the page, the more our videos will get out there in the algorithm, and the more regular folks who are not super keyed into the Libertarian Party will get to see our videos and our content. So help a guy out, help a candidate out.
Question from Laura. Alabama just passed legislation signed by the governor that bans ranked choice voting. What are your thoughts on that?
Governor Meemaw, she passed that legislation out there, Kay Ivey. So I think it is a sign that the two-party system is afraid. And it's a damn shame that they don't have that in Alabama. And I hope Alabama voters sue to fight for that right, because first off, local communities should be able to determine how their local elections are done. The state should not be coming down on counties and localities to determine how they elect their leadership. And frankly, I think it's just a sign of cowardice from the two-party system in Alabama. I'd love to see what the vote totals for that were, how many Republicans and Democrats supported that. I'm betting it was a bipartisan bill, because one of the few things the Democrats and Republicans try to agree on is how to keep other voices out of the process, which is a damn shame. Yeah. So what else? Who else wants to throw a question in there?
Here's one from that Libertarian lady. Thoughts on the issues that families are going through in Georgia with doctors accusing parents of abuse. Figured you're walking closely with your power since you're in Georgia.
Well, I have been closely paying attention to what Spike's been doing. I have been making calls as You Are the Power has been directing people to call the governor, call other people to support families who are being unfairly separated by the state and unfairly accused of abuse. This all started, a few months back. Spike uncovered one case, and then one case turned into two cases, and that turned into like 3 or 4. And now we're seeing it as kind of an epidemic happening at the level here in Georgia, and really questions are not getting answered. And I applaud You Are the Power for challenging these people. They have some great folks. Most importantly, Ryan Ralston out here is a superstar. He has been such a hard worker in this process, and I want to commend him and the team out here for really exposing lots of wrongdoing from the government. And Brian Kemp, if for some reason you're listening to this live stream, if for some reason you hear this, you need to get with Spike and the others at You Are the Power and answer these questions and understand that your department is creating real harm for families in Georgia. And absolutely, as a presidential candidate, I will be putting focus on issues just like that, especially here in my home state of Georgia, because I think it's one thing our party should certainly be working on. And I was glad to see You Are the Power represented at our convention. It just, to me, it is a damn shame that this has to even be happening, that we have to even be exposing anything. And so, Brian Kemp needs to get out and help these families and expose what's going on at these departments. And if he's not going to do it, we need to make sure that we're supporting a candidate in the next election that's going to be putting these issues forward as a candidate for governor in Georgia. Because if this continues to get swept under the rug, it's going to be, it's going to keep harming so many more kids and separating them from their families, which I have said all the time on the campaign trail. One of the things I say to people the most is we need to be taking power out of the hands of bureaucrats and putting it into the hands of parents. And that includes, this abuse of DFACs and other organizations that are taking kids away. Parents are going to be the best advocate for kids 99.9% of the time, barring negligence or abuse. And for those, that's what we need to be saving resources for, is legitimate cases of neglect or abuse, not what we're seeing in Georgia with just this haphazard policy. But thank you for the question. It does. I don't know if you saw that my blood pressure's gone up a little bit, because it does really piss me off that it's happening here in Georgia.
Same,
but thank you for the question, and it deserves to be passionately fought for. And thank you, Spike, for doing the work you're doing.
All right, here's a little lighthearted one from Michelle. What has been your favorite story about how someone found your campaign or libertarianism?
Well, gee, that's kind of, putting me on the spot a little bit, finding out about the campaign. I will say this, it's awesome to meet young people who have found out about this campaign or about me as a candidate. One of the ones that happened is I was on a flight to Seattle, and so I was waiting at the airport, and I see this group of young people. They're like a church group. They're all wearing matching shirts, and they're a youth group. And I start talking to the chaperones, like, hey, like, what are you guys doing? They're on a trip to Alaska. And as I'm talking to the chaperones, this young man comes up and he goes, "Excuse me, are you Chase Oliver?" I was like, "Oh my God, yeah, I am. What's up?" And he goes, "Well, I'm 18 years old." Well, he goes, "I was 18 years old in the last election, and you're the first person I ever voted for because I saw your debate with Senator Warnock, and it made me, it really inspired me to look into your campaign and to look into the Libertarian Party." And he became a Libertarian because of that, right? That's not the first story I've heard that just like that, like somebody saw the campaign for Senate and then got inspired to look more into the party. We started to have that, in this campaign. At our last live stream, one of the questioners that we had was somebody who was a brand new volunteer, brand new to the Libertarian Party, because they saw us campaigning, they saw the free and equal debate and other stuff online, and got inspired to become a volunteer for the campaign. We're going to do that for so many people, and the way we do that is being a welcoming place. I'm not going to gatekeep every person who wants to vote for me or support me in this election going, oh, you're not a real libertarian, so you can't support me. You can't be on the campaign team because you don't support every single. No, we want to bring people in who have libertarian streaks in them, who have ideas that the system is broken and it's wrong. And we want to inspire the path to the right solutions, which is liberty. But that doesn't happen overnight. It's a gradual process. And so we're going to bring these people into the tent. We're going to let them hear the amazing, powerful message that liberty can bring to our communities and to our lives and help transform a new generation to libertarianism. Just like that young man at the airport, just like that volunteer we had in the last live stream. And if you get involved in the campaign, Michelle's going to help get you plugged in. She's our volunteer coordinator. She was the membership director of the National Party for a while. And so she's great about, finding cool stuff for people to do, especially once we get rolling on day one of the nomination. She's going to be extremely busy activating so many volunteers to get going all over the country to help spread the message of this campaign.
All right. Let's see. Here's one from Debbie. How would you realistically lower taxes?
Well, the first thing we have to do is cut spending. Because we don't want to raise taxes to balance the budget. We have to cut spending to balance the budget. Now, once we have a balanced budget, the easiest way, excuse me, allergies have been kicking my ass today, but the easiest way to reduce taxation in our lives is to flatten the tax code. And so basically to get rid of all sorts of subsidies and deductions that have really been paid for, particularly on the corporate taxation side, by big business and elite industries to basically carve out their little niches to allow them to save money. And it really screws over the little guy. And so what we'd want to do is remove all these complicated carve-outs, deductions, massively simplify the tax code, and then reduce the rate overall. Hopefully, eventually, get rid of the income tax altogether. But realistically, that's the first way you're going to do that, is by simplifying the tax code and reducing the impact that it has on each person's wallet by reducing the overall rates. There are a lot of other things we can do to reduce the impact of government action in your lives, reducing or removing tariffs altogether. I'm a free trade guy, so I would like to remove every trade barrier that we have. Right now, we have a President Joe Biden, who 4 years ago ran on how terrible Trump's protectionist policies are. Oh my God, he's tariffing Chinese steel and all this other stuff. And I actually agree with him. Those are bad things. Tariffs are a tax on every single consumer. But now he's literally announced this week that he's doubling down, and in some cases tripling down, by doubling or tripling the tariff amounts from what Donald Trump had. So it was so bad when Donald Trump did it, but now he's doing it to say, well, I'm going to create jobs right here in America, which it doesn't. It's protectionist nonsense. It just makes goods more expensive for American businesses who use those goods. And that gets passed on to you, the consumer. So there's a lot of things we can do immediately if we were elected to start reducing the impact of government action, both in taxation and then other things like trade barriers, that'll lower the bottom line for your cost of living. And thank you for the question.
Okay, we'll mix it up with another fun one. Are you going to bring back the pocket square?
I like pocket squares. Fan of them. They look good. I will keep using pocket squares because they do complete a suit. I have a few. If you have a pocket square you want to give me, happy to wear it, but I have the few that are my favorites, as well as so here's a fun fact. Get a suit that has a lined pocket. And then if you need a quick pocket square, you just turn the pocket inside out and then you have a pocket square. Fun thing to do, but only if you have a lined pocket. See, it doesn't work if the pocket isn't lined. So get those quality suits that have that, and then you're never without one in a pinch. Let's see.
All right. There's one from. Do you have one you want to answer, DC?
Oh, let's see.
I'm just kind of throwing them out there.
Yeah. Will I create I like this one. Well, I created an executive order to outlaw executive orders. If I did, that would be unconstitutional and should be thrown out, because all executive orders should be thrown out. It's not a power the president should really have to just dictate law via executive fiat. So, no, but I would certainly sign legislation that does away with the power of executive order and let the legislature flex their muscle, because it's something that they're supposed to be doing, not the executive branch. One thing I tell people all the time is if I'm elected president, the office of president will be a weaker office when I leave than when I got in, because I'll start relinquishing all the ill-gotten power that presidents past have consolidated into that office. Let's see. I'm going to go back here because there were a lot of them.
There was one that Jenny asked that I'm sure you don't want to answer.
Where?
This one.
Oh, no, we're not going to. Okay, guys. Jenny is intent on seeing me jump out of an airplane. Now, this is because she saw how insanely scared I am of heights when they shot me off with a slingshot at the Iowa State Fair. Now, we raised $1,000 in a day to get me in the slingshot, which only shoots you 300 feet in the air at like 6 G's of force or whatever. But you're still technically tethered to the ground. Like, you are attached to things that are on the ground. To get me to skydive, like I said, you know what? I said my fundraising goal was $5 million. If we get to that goal, I'll think about it. Maybe.
I would go skydiving for much, much less money.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm terrified of heights, you guys. Like, maybe get me a hot air balloon first, or hang gliding or something. I don't know. Just something about skydiving fully. Bungee jumping also sounds completely terrifying and ridiculous. Like, I just feel like that one is just an accident waiting to happen. So let's work on a hot air balloon or zip line or something that's also very high up and terrifying. But I don't know, skydiving. Do you want to see me have a heart attack on camera? Because that's a great way to do it.
All right, let's see. Here's another one from Alexander. What are your plans for the Federal Reserve?
I mean, throwing it into the dustbin of history. Right? I think that needs to be the standard plan there. But I think the quickest way to get that is to fully audit the Fed, so that way we can expose what goes on there. And once the American public has a knowledge of the inner workings, they're going to want to see that done away with. So let's educate the public on what the Federal Reserve does, so we can educate them on them not doing that anymore. But yeah, eventually, bye-bye.
All right. See. Here's another one from Alexander Woods. I'm going to scroll up some. I talked to a lot of people recently who say this is the first year I'm debating voting for Trump because I don't know how we can survive another 4 years of Biden. What would you tell those people?
Honestly, I don't know how we're going to survive another 4 years of either of these numbskulls. Donald Trump, many of the things that Joe Biden has done are things that Donald Trump was the architect of. He started these things, and Joe Biden continued them, from COVID policy to protectionist trade policies, as I mentioned. Donald Trump blew up the debt and deficit more than any president has in a single year, and we're still feeling the inflationary repercussions of that. The lockdowns, the supply chain crisis, all of those things began under Donald Trump, and as well as just the general breakdown, and the fact that of any progress being made on so many issues that need to be addressed, but just aren't, because we've turned it into a political mudslinging contest. He's just a very poisonous figure in terms of discourse. He's not somebody who's going to respect the conversations that need to be had to actually push for policies that are going to push freedom in our lifetime, whether it's things like immigration, ending warfare, law enforcement accountability, the budget, the debts and deficits that we're all feeling, educational freedom. He talks a good game. I saw Donald Trump celebrating Corey DeAngelis and saying he read his book, which, let's be real, did Donald Trump read that book? No, he didn't. He was told to truth or whatever that he had read that book. But in reality, when he gets elected, would he end the Department of Education? No. And how do we know this? Because he was president for 4 years. He didn't end the Department of Education or seek to do that at all. There's so many things that he's going to promise, by the way. He's going to speak at our convention next week. He's going to promise a lot of things that he could have done for the 4 years he was president. And why is he saying them now? because he's desperate to try to steal our vote and our activism for his goals. Do you think he's going to follow through on those things? Absolutely not. Why he's having to come to Libertarians in the first place, because he's already burned so many people that already voted for him before with the lies that he told. Things like he was going to cut the debt in half in 8 years. He didn't even tackle the deficit in the first 4 years. He blew it up. And so when these people say these things, they have to remember that things were not peachy keen under Donald Trump either. The debt is going to increase no matter who the president is, if it's one of them. The warfare will keep going on all around the world. The drones will keep dropping bombs on innocent people around the world if either one of them are president. We're going to continue to see the onslaught in Gaza if either one of them are president. And so I just don't, I cannot accept that things will be so much better under Donald Trump than they would be under Joe Biden. It's going to be a shit show either way if either of them are president, which is why we have to run for the alternative and try to push those alternative ideas out there to break down that two-party structure that exists that allows terrible, terrible, broken old candidates like Donald Trump and Joe Biden to bubble up to the surface to begin with.
I'm going to throw this up there because of relevance. The only difference between Biden and Trump is rhetoric.
Yeah, they're both old and they both stink in their own ways. As a family member of mine used to say, it's like picking between two dog turds. I mean, objectively, I guess one would be better, but do you really want to get down and sniff it? I don't. So I think they're both terrible. And don't make sure you don't step in either one of them.
Here's another one. If I butcher your name, I'm so sorry. Norberto. Will you be changing our foreign policy to stop funding foreign wars, withdrawing from NATO?
Well, yes and yes is the short answer to those questions, but absolutely. I'm anti-war to the core. I got started in politics. Before I was even a libertarian, I was an anti-war activist. So I want to remove the war machine and the warfare state from our lives altogether as much as possible. I believe the only use for a military is to defend us from invasion, and committing warfare around the world and being the world's police does not fit in line with that, with those goals. So absolutely. And we would stop funding foreign wars 100%. Stop funding, stop selling arms in Saudi Arabia that get used in Yemen to kill people. Stop funding what we're doing over in both in Ukraine and particularly in Gaza, where we're seeing tens of thousands of people, hit with airstrikes. It's so wrong to be funding these things. So yes, and we do need to withdraw from NATO. That doesn't mean that we will never ever come to Europe's defense if we need to. We came to Europe's defense during World War II, before there was a NATO, because there was a need for that. But to fully entangle ourselves in such an alliance is just not worth it, especially when we have been contributing far more than the other member nations have. I think it's time for them to contribute to their own defense, because us contributing to the defense of Europe is what's allowed them to just pay for all kinds of socialized programs. So they're building their socialist programs on the backs of the United States military industrial complex. And that's not a really good use of United States resources. Let's be real.
All right. And here's one from Mountain Dew 97122. Do you support them defend the guard legislation?
Yes, not only do I support it, but I've actually spoken up at the Georgia State Senate in support of passing it through out of committee, which it unfortunately did not reach the full body vote. But as it comes to a legislative session next year, I'm going to be supporting it in my home state and in states all over the country where that legislation is on the, up for debate or up for testimony. As a presidential, happy to go and speak in favor of defend the guard. It is a bill that, defends the constitutional right of states to not have their National Guard sent all over the world to be fighting these wars. The first time this became an issue for me is when we saw Hurricane Katrina, and we saw the fact that the Louisiana National Guard was fighting in Baghdad instead of serving people in New Orleans, helping to get them off rooftops. And so, yes, I support defend the guard legislation 100%.
Let's see. Here is one from Jenny. You talked about immigration early on. What's your plan to fix the crisis at the border?
Yeah, first off, if you want to see full platform language, you can go to votechaseoliver.com and see our platform positions. Immigration is one of those, obviously. But really, we want to support the 21st century Ellis Island model that allows people to come through a port of entry, declare who they are. If they're not wanted for a crime, something of that nature, they can come right on through, get to work as a guest worker. Eventually, one day, if they want to become a citizen, there's a process for that. We can streamline that too. But really, what we're wanting to facilitate is the free movement of people and their labor, which is capital, across the border easily. This would help facilitate more seasonal labor, in particular in the realm of agriculture, where right now the conditions have people coming into this country working during planting and harvesting and then kind of being stuck here. They send most of their money back home, but they can't go back home because they'd have to go through the difficulty of getting back across the border again. But if we had this 21st century Ellis Island, these seasonal workers would be able to come and go as they need to, go back to their families with that money. Be able to directly invest it into developing economies, which would ultimately facilitate less need for northward immigration. So this is all a kind of an undoing of the broken process that we currently have. So yeah, thank you for the question. And of course, if you want to see more in-depth stuff, go to our website and you can see the full platform spread there. And I welcome folks to check it out. I see one right here that I like. Should the president have qualified immunity? No, the president should not be immune from crimes. If you commit a crime as president, you should be subject to that. Absolutely. You should not be immune from these things. And any president or former president that argues they should have total immunity, which is what one former president argues, that would be that would be a very bad thing to have, is a president who thinks that they can just do whatever they want. And honestly, if you're Donald Trump and you're arguing that a president can just do whatever they want, even drone bomb a political opponent without any immunity, that would worry me, considering I'm not the president right now, right?
Here's one. Laurie, chilling. When you see the presidential nominations, do you have a marketing strategy for reaching voters who are keenly interested in voting third party for the first time?
Absolutely, we do. That is one of the things we've been preparing for on day one, ready to roll out. Again, shout out to our amazing comms director, Kelsey Lyon, who has helped put together an aggressive strategy to reach out to young voters via both in-person events and social media. We're going to be touring around, meeting young people where they're at, and not just in the university setting. Most people, when they say, we're going to reach out to young people, mean I'm going to go visit colleges. Now, we're going to visit colleges, but we're also going to reach out to other areas where young people exist, outside of the college system. Most kids don't go to college, actually. Most people get right to work. And so we're going to have to reach out to those young people as well. But we are putting together those strategies right now and getting them ready to roll out. And we're very excited for them because on day one, we're ready to roll. So we have already put together this portfolio of policy together, not just policy, but ways to market and reach out to these voters directly, that I think is going to really be something that the Libertarian Party has never done before in the way we're doing it. And hopefully we're going to see real dividends from that investment in those areas.
Here's a really good follow-up to that question. With RFK talking a lot about the protest vote, how do you plan to get attention and grow LP movement?
Well, I think first we have to educate the voters that if you're voting for RFK, you're voting for a one and done, right? You're voting for a guy who's coming in for this election, and when he's gone, he's gone. You're not really building into the foundation of anything. It won't lead to really any real growth against the two-party system. But if you were to vote for the Libertarian candidate, the Libertarian policy, you're going to see a foundational building up of a party structure. We can win ballot access. We can win major party status. There are local libertarians running all over the country that can win elections, right? There's not local Robert Kennedys running all over the country that are going to win these elections. There's Democrats, Republicans, and libertarians. And so we want to support a party structure that's actually going to foundationally grow, not just a one and done candidate. Frankly, that's almost like that's almost what the two-party system would want this movement to do, is just to throw it away on a wasted protest vote of an RFK that doesn't really build anything, instead of actually going for these alternative parties that would build a structure up. And then lastly, I would say, if you really want to vote against the establishment, rule number one, don't vote for a Kennedy, because they're about the most establishment elitist political dynasty that's ever existed in this country. And so voting for any of them, even the black sheep of the family, is voting for somebody who's well connected into the elitism of this country and hasn't really lived a day of a normal life. Like, I've worked for a living. I live in the America that most Americans live in, as opposed to the America that Jack Kennedy, that Robert Jr. lives in and grew up in, which is the privileged elite, or the America that Donald Trump grew up in, the privileged elite, or the America that Joe Biden has spent most of his life in, the politically well-connected elite, right? I'm somebody who's actually lived a normal life. And so I think when we want to reach out to these young voters, and particularly these voters who are ready to vote outside the two-party system, it helps to have a messenger who's, had the same struggles they've had, had to overcome the problems that that other people have had to overcome, and not just someone born with a silver spoon in their mouth.
Next one from Jack. What are your thoughts about the Center for Disease Control and Prevention?
Well, I don't think that they should be the sole arbiter of what we should and shouldn't do for our own bodies, and for for the healthcare decisions we make. I do see the national security need to have some sort of research into disease, particularly bioweapons, so that we can protect ourselves from them. But what I don't see is the need for them to be, making every single decision about everything that's going on here. It's a department that drastically needs to be reduced in terms of their messaging power outward. And they made so many mistakes during COVID that you could really study the mistakes that the CDC, the FDA, and some of these other government entities made in the wake of COVID. You could study them for the rest of your life and still not get all the way through them, because there's so freaking many of them. And so, I understand the need for some of what they do. There's not a need for a lot of what they do. And an Oliver administration, just like most other government departments, there'd be a mass reorganization or outright abolition altogether, many of the things that they do.
Next one from Wendy. How would you address inflation and the increasing cost of living nationwide?
Yeah. So the first way to inflation is recognize that inflation is not just driven by corporate greed, which is what the Democrats want to make you think. Oh, it's just Amazon got 3.5% more greedy than this year than they did last year, right? That's not really how it works. What the driver of inflation is our monetary policy, where we're printing trillions of dollars out of thin air and using that to cover the spread for deficit spending every year. And so the quickest way to start curbing inflation is to balance the budget. Insist that Congress give your president a balanced budget. And if he doesn't get one, you veto it. That's going to slow the cost of living increases that every American is feeling right now. Inflation is pinching your dollars. Those dollars are in your pocket, your bank account, or your business. You're seeing the cost of living because of the fact that we have massively overspent as a government. And in doing so, we've printed tons of printed. It's really just in a digital spreadsheet somewhere, but we've created new, we've printed dollars essentially, and that has devalued every single dollar that we have. And it's a hidden tax that isn't approved by any kind of legislation or anything like that. It's just done through the nature of the fact that we're spending more than we're taking in. There are other things we can do to reduce the cost of living, particularly make it easier to start or grow a business, remove those barriers and regulations that make it harder to bring new businesses online, which can then compete in the marketplace and drive down costs organically. And part of that is reducing the amount of giveaways, deductions, and subsidies that these large corporate firms are getting, because they basically bought and paid for them by buying and paying for members of Congress. Once we do away with those and we have a truly competitive free market, you're going to see a drive down of costs. The more free our market is, the more competition that exists in the marketplace, the more costs get driven down organically. And then the quicker we stop printing trillions of dollars out of thin air, the quicker we start addressing the inflation that's being caused by government spending.
Here's one from Bryce. I'm a libertarian leaner voter who used to support Trump. In what ways would you say your policies are more libertarian than Trump?
Absolutely. So let's just look at things that Republicans really cared about. Gun policy. Donald Trump passed more gun control in his 4 years than Barack Obama did in 8 years, with his bump stock ban, his push for red flag laws. I absolutely support the right of self-defense. It's an inherent right. And I support the constitutional language of the Second Amendment that says shall not be infringed, which means we not only need to stop and fight back against any gun control that is being currently proposed, but also do away with all the legislation that currently exists that does away with our inherent right to protect ourselves. And so I would do it with like the National Firearms Act, any fight to register our weapons, things like this. Other areas where I'm certainly more libertarian than Trump is when we reduce the government's impact in your life. When we reduce the size and scope and agency of government, we're going to allow you to live more as you are. You can live as conservatively as you want, or as out of the box and, as you want to, so long as you're doing it in peace. Those policies are really not being pushed by Donald Trump or, frankly, Joe Biden. And then lastly, when we talk about things like educational freedom, not only do I want to get the government out of your education federally, but ideally, I would like to get the government out of your kids' education altogether and allow that to become a true free market mechanism. We're probably not going to get there anytime soon, just the way the things work, but actually advocating for these policies that truly get government out of our lives altogether, as opposed to saying, oh, I can fix the broken government programs to make it a better government program. Things like the entitlements, like Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, he's just as bad, or if not worse, as the Democrats on all of those things. And so we have a much more libertarian policy prescription just across the board. I think every policy I support is probably more libertarian than where Trump is on the issue. So you could take your pick, and if you go to votechaseoliver.com right now, look through them, and you'll see a much more libertarian policy rollout. I did see one. Yep. Let's go with the next question there. Hide that comment right there. There's Kelsey. I shouted her out. Her ears must have been burning.
How would you explain
Kelsey,
inflation policies?
How would I explain inflation policies to Gen Z? Well, I think I just did a kind of a good primer there, and making sure that the first thing we have to explain to Gen Z is, unlike what the two-party politicians are telling them, it's not because of corporate greed that inflation is occurring. We have to start off with that bare, that floor level conversation of like, okay, why do you think corporate greed is making this happen? Oh, well, their prices increased. Well, yeah, because the money is worth less. This is why business increases prices, because the money is worth less because we're printing more of it. So you have to start with that, is break these kids of this notion that Elizabeth Warren and other statist politicians are trying to sell them that, oh, well, it's just because Amazon's more greedy this year than they were last year that they're raising prices, or, oh, well, McDonald's hamburgers are getting more expensive just because Ronald McDonald wants another dollar. No, it's because the cost of beef is rising because of the supply chain crisis. It's because the cost of everything is rising due to government policies that get in the way. And no better to talk about that than where I just got back from recently, which is Hawaii, which they have the highest cost of living of any state. And that's directly caused by a government policy, the Jones Act. If you want to talk about cost of living increases, geez, it's made way worse, certainly in Puerto Rico, Hawaii, and any other island territory, by the Jones Act, which is a direct government policy that if we got rid of tomorrow, you would see just a major, you would see a major lowering of prices of domestic goods on the islands, and you'd certainly see more American business in the islands. But yeah, so we have to, the first thing we're going to do to reach out to Gen Z and talking about inflation is removing the spell that it's somehow caused by corporations. We want to go with, let's see. I think we'll answer. So we're getting towards the 10:15 mark. We'll answer maybe one or two questions. We can hit Tyler's question. I think I see that one there, and maybe one more after this.
All right.
Why should you vote for me versus Mike Termott or Lars Mapstead? Well, first off, I have to preface this with saying I like both those guys. They're very nice. I've traveled across the country and seen them at many conventions, right? This is what happens during a primary season. We run into each other all the time. And but why do I think I am better as a candidate than them? First off, the metrics of this campaign speak for itself. The fact that we have the highest number of volunteers, the highest number of donors, we've fundraised more than either of them. We've actually fundraised more than both of them put together in terms of money that's actually raised by donations. We have an amazing professionalized staff. Not that they don't, but I want to just shout out how amazing our staff is, how amazing our volunteers are. But I think really in this election, having a generational face for the next generation, being a younger voice for liberty, is going to be an advantage that I think, just by the year that we were born is going to put me in an advantage being able to reach out to younger voters. But also I think just our record as a candidate. I've run for office. This is my third run for office. We've improved the way I've run in every single campaign going along. We've learned lessons from the previous campaigns that we're now utilizing in this one. And then really, we've gotten the best results of running as a Libertarian against Republicans and Democrats of the entire Libertarian slate, not just Mike or Lars, but of all of them. We have the best record of running against the two-party system and creating news and creating relevance for this party. I would venture to say that in 2022, post-election, we probably got more news and attention for our race than even Jo Jorgensen got in 2020 post her race. And so we're going to do that again in 2024. We're going to make sure that people know about the Libertarian Party, our platform, and our positions in 2024, utilizing that same positive, powerful messaging that we put forward in the 2020 campaign, but with just much more resources and a unified Libertarian Party behind it. I've been speaking about unifying this party a lot lately. And if you have any questions about that and you want to reach out as a delegate, I want to hear from you. So I'm just going to shout this out one more time. Go to votechaseoliver.com/book. If you are a delegate or an alternate, I want to hear from you. I want to get your feedback before we get to convention. So go to votechaseoliver.com/book. And we can hear, and you can book a phone time. Excuse me, I'm about to not cough again.
I just want to take a second and shout out Stacy. She says, you're doing a great job, and I'm glad to be volunteering for your campaign. I hope you get our nomination. Stacy, thank you for volunteering. We're so glad to have you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for being a volunteer. And I also hope I get the nomination next week. So we agree on that very much. And thank you for doing the work you're doing as part of our awesome volunteer army. And we're just going to keep growing throughout this campaign.
All right, Chase, I'll let you take our last question, and then we can plug some stuff.
Yep. Well, I'm just going to, I just see lots of real cool stuff coming through, just positive stuff. And so I think we've answered a good enough questions. I just want to kind of end on some positive commentary here. Your answer to my question was perfect. I'm glad I gave a great answer to your question, sir. Thank you very much for asking it. Thank you for answering our questions, and good luck in 7 days. Well, thank you very much for asking those questions. And yes, I hope this campaign does some great work at our convention. If you are a delegate or an alternate, I hope to earn your first round vote so that we can just go ahead and hit the ground running on day one as a unified party ready to go. Casey says, I'm also proud and honored to work on this campaign. Thank you so much, Casey, for the work you've done behind the scenes. If you guys don't know, in the lead up to the free and equal debates, we had Casey just in real time monitoring the vote totals from that the poll that they did to get us in there, as well as like monitoring every time we did a text or an email blast, kind of seeing how that affected the vote totals and gauging that in real time. In addition to so much work behind the scenes that he's done. So just shout out to you, Casey, for doing some great work. Yes, come see us in the breakout room and at our table. We will have swag. Yes, I commented that, you guys, on Facebook. Just commented that. That's totally not a member of my team who's logged in as me right now. No, but yes, come to the breakout room. Come to our table. We will have swag. It will be a great time. Luck to me. Best of luck to you. That's what I say. Yes, we are going to keep fighting. And in the words of the Klingons, Kerpla to you, sir. May we all have honor on our houses this evening. I'm going to say thank you very much for you guys coming on to this live stream. It will not be the last live stream we do. We want to make sure that we're staying plugged in to the voters and to those out there who want a real alternative to the two-party system. We're going to win liberty for the next generation, win liberty for our generation as well. But we're going to build that foundation. We're going to have a foundation-changing election where we're going to get so many people involved in the process that we're going to build our party foundation up. Why? So we can tear the state down. Thank you, Amber, for coming on and helping to moderate some comments. You're more than welcome to help do that in the future if you're game to do that. Thank you so much for being an awesome media coordinator, by the way.
You're welcome.
Reason Magazine today. Thank you for helping to coordinate that, as well as all the other media that this campaign has been getting across the process. But to those of you, I'm gonna say peace out, Amber. Thank you so much for being on. I'm gonna throw you off stage now, so you're not stuck in front of a camera while I say goodbye to everybody else. But Thank you for coming to this live stream, everybody. I'm very excited for our convention next week. Again, if you want to speak to me as a delegate, I want to hear from you. Go to votechaseoliver.com/book and book a call time with me. If you are somebody who's seen this live stream, you think, man, that guy's got some great ideas, and I want to support him. You can support us as a donor supporter by going to votechaseoliver.com/donate. That is all the free plugs I have for each and every one of you right now. But as always, I'm going to wish you the same thing I wish to each and every person here and around the world: a life of peace, a life of love, and a life of liberty. Have a wonderful night. And goodbye.